And welcome to another episode of the Frankly Leader podcast. I am absolutely thrilled today to have my good friend, Demic Rebellion. What else can I call you? She's a brilliant human being, and you'd be privileged to work alongside her. Norma, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Jennifer, I've got tingles.
Oh,
So thank you so much for having me and reflecting on our journeys together over the last kind of 18 months. And just, yeah, I love that it's culminated to this moment. So thank you for having me.
it has, and I think it's actually longer than 18 months.
Is it? Wow.
How time flies.
Oh my God.
But let me also just say before I properly introduce you that I'm so excited. I've been geeking out a bit about this because you have, as you know, because I tell you all the time, my favourite podcast voice ever.
I have been told I have a voice, and I just hope that your participants stay, or the people who are listening, will stay awake, because I have been known to
Oh,
put people to sleep with this voice.
no, it's a beautiful voice. It's my favourite. So, for people out there who do not know you, let me do you a proper introduction. So, welcome to the podcast, Norma O'Kelly, Systemic Coach. Norma has worked with individuals and teams facilitating their transitions for many, many years. But prior to becoming a coach, you left a 22-year marketing career working for some really big brands. Some of these were a surprise to me. So, you've worked for big global brands like Salesforce, Oracle, Nokia, Jameson Irish whiskey I did not know about, nor did I know about Bacardi and Hennessy. So welcome. What a colourful
You.
and alcoholic career you've had to date.
As I call it, I went from liquidware to hardware to software. That's my career story. Yeah.
And now are we in humanware?
Yeah, we are in the heartware, actually.
The
Heartware.
heart. Oh, I
Heartware.
love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. So, for people that don't know you, bear in mind the audience for this podcast is leaders, busy leaders. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do now and what you love about it.
So I think what I loved about my previous career that I've brought to this career is the variety. You know, that no 2 days are the same. I'm somebody who loves the shiny and the new and, the different. So what I get to do now and being with individuals and teams is just seeing all of the person. I think that's what really excites me most, that in the spaces with me that they start to unravel and reveal more of themselves that's already there, that they've had
Mm,
to hide away, perhaps in systems where, all of them wasn't welcome. And when I see that, I suppose, disentangling or unraveling, um, what happens in their lives as a result, and also with teams, I'm even being brought back to teams that I've worked with over the course of the last years to ask right now for impact statements. And it's their, I suppose it feels too big sometimes to say life changing, but they're moments that people remember for a long time. I
mm,
did some work pre-COVID with a team, actually the day that Ireland was shut down as a nation, and people still talk about that team coaching day, that it changed everything for that team, and how the months that came after and how resilient they were because of the foundational vulnerability work that we had done together. So the work sometimes is very big and sometimes it's really small, but it's really impactful. And I think um, I'd rather be useful to people really than the notion of, really allowing them to be empowered by themselves. And again, there's all that cheesiness, that the Californian cheesiness from working from American corporates is there, but it's really, sometimes it's really simple and yet it's really deep. And I really love what I do. I'm really
yeah.
blessed, really
Yeah.
blessed.
And you can see that it comes across so much, like in bucketfuls. And I think what I'm hearing in there is just the level of care that you put to creating that psychological safety for a group, and maybe even beyond psychological, but the safety that you create for individuals and groups to just like hit pause from their busyness for long enough to gather in the parts of themselves that maybe been ignoring, avoiding, pushing to one side, whether it's an individual or a team. And the courage that comes with that vulnerability to be willing to look at that and go, we could be doing we could be doing things in a better way that's in service of us and our well-being. And you know what? It'll also lead to better
Yeah.
business health, whatever
And
that is for that business.
And I think what's really unique about me as a coach is I came from a really strong commercial background, right? I was in huge organizations that sold millions, billions even. And I get it that the bottom line has to be about profit. And what I truly believe now is that doesn't need to be at the cost of the individual, that they can
Yeah,
be brought along that too. Because I think, I work for, as you listed out, like the likes of Nokia, right, who are a Finnish company, like phenomenal, family values and delivered amazing things at the height of it. And the two can coexist. And I think when we include more of ourselves, everybody profits, everybody.
yeah, yeah,
And it's the health of the system. So I think, that's one thing I've learned really with the systemic coaching is, it's all about including the parts to feel more whole. And now businesses really don't get a choice. Like they have to include the individual and what's going on. And it can only make it for a better system, healthier system, and profitable and commercial system. I think
yeah.
that's really important to say.
So we're going to deep dive. So this is one of our bonus episodes. So you're bringing along a tool that you think leaders need to have in their toolkit to keep them future-proofed, resilient, and resourced. So we'll get into that in a moment. But from your perspective, what do you see as like one of the biggest challenges that leaders need to be prepared for?
Yeah, I think it didn't take me long to, I suppose, reflect on that question because it really is the age of Aquarius. It's all around AI, and I think um, we can lose sight of our humanity and our need for in-person connection when we overly index on something like AI. And yes, it's so critical. I think we can't ignore it. I think it would be, it's how do we include it, but we also include humanity and that we don't, the rise of the AI being our support as opposed to another human. There's a real danger there for businesses and the individuals working. So of course it's going to impact, people's actual jobs and there might be less jobs in certain sectors, but I think the work that you and I do is even more required now. Where I bumped into an old colleague this morning and she's never in the office. She's always on her own. It suits her personality. And my sense is that you've got a very full life around your job. And she said, absolutely. And that's what keeps me going.
Hmm.
Um, and, but I know by her, there's no loyalty to the company she's with and she won't stay. So how do you keep the balance of human connection, teamwork, togetherness to, values and all of that in the age of AI? I think it's a huge challenge, and I think you need people like us who see all of it. So I think, yeah, that's it. It's a given to say it, and it's not to, just tick a box and say it because I think it's so multi-layered and complex. It's even quantum, like AI is quantum.
Mm.
And we can teach our AI bots to be systemic. Mine is pretty more systemic than anybody else's, but it's still limited. As are humans, we have our limitations. But ultimately, when a heart to heart coherence and connection happens, that's what really is the true creator of anything.
Hmm.
AI doesn't have a heart.
Not
Um,
yet.
no, no. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of fears, but also being open and as best companies can be to those really fears, like not to dismiss them. I think it would be easy to dismiss them, and there has to be a space for people to really, yeah, come together. By ignoring it is it's not going away.
No, and exactly. I was just going to say that it's not going anywhere. So it's not like you can ignore it. Like I mean, you can ignore it, but there are risks associated with every choice, aren't there? So there for me is a kind of like it's not going anywhere. If we are going to work with it within our organisation, what do we want our approach to be? What are our ethics around it? How does it fit with our culture, our strategy, our people? I think there are some big questions to ask, and it's new, so there isn't a here's what I did when I tried to do this
No
before,
textbook on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really interested. There's a few of them popping up in Ireland, like AI anthropologists.
Mm,
They're really, really interesting because they're kind of surmising what will happen and how AI is built into our communities and, healthcare settings and all of that. And it's the ethical consideration along with the real human need for connection, as well as how do we bring it in. And it's transformative for many disabilities right now. It is the point of connection. So to ignore it would be like disimproving lives. So
mm,
how do we work with it, include it? Because when we ignore it, it's not acknowledging what is. So,
mhm,
um, but I think you need guides to help you around all this,
mm.
and the systemic lenses is really useful amongst lots of others as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings us nicely into then, these bonus episode podcasts about how, helping leaders to become more resourced, and a lot of these decisions will fall with leaders, won't they, in how to navigate and take their people on a journey. So tell us about the resource that you think all leaders need to have in their toolkit.
Um, I really think breathwork is the most simple thing that you can access for free. And when the leader is intentional with their breath, it can change the whole outcome of the team.
Mhm.
So the microsecond before the Zoom call starts or the meeting starts, how about taking a pause with those 3 long exhales and you acknowledging what's happening? It's as simple as that. Another move I like to make, and I tell people, even if it's in the bathroom, it's placing a hand on your heart, a hand on your tummy, and taking an inhale that connects all 3 and an exhale, and doing 3 of those, because that's bringing us back to our humanity.
Mm,
Um, it seems I had a leader tell me recently that he just didn't want breathwork included in a workshop. And I had to honor that. But I think it's a huge miss. And it really is as simple as 3 long exhales. It's not big, it's not macro, it's free, it's
yeah.
accessible. But when the leader is resourced in breath, everything changes.
Mm,
And including when we include the head, the heart, and the gut, and the 3 in the breath, that's such a simple game changer. There's so many free ways to learn breath work, but I always encourage people to go to a class because they'll find a technique, whether it's box breathing, whether it's vagus breathing, coherent breathing. They're really, really simple techniques that can really change the outcome of your day. And when you're breathing, your team is breathing. But if
mm.
you're bracing, most people are they're going
Yeah,
about their day bracing all the
I
time.
was just going to say that. So it's about 10 years ago when I did my acupuncture degree, one of the things that a lot of the lecturers banged on about was how, as human beings, we only use the top 10% of our lung capacity. So we've got like that other 90% of breath to oxygenate our cells, to help us feel alive, to give us presence, and we're not even tapping into it. And then more recently, I've been reading, because I do quite a lot of volunteer work within the planet and climate change space, and reading how one of the things that gets in the way of us stepping into change is the flight or fight response that we get when we're looking into something that potentially is quite overwhelming for us. And of course, what do we do in that? We hold our breath, like
Brace. We brace.
literally hold our breath. So yeah, and it's amazing to me that somebody wouldn't want to just spend a minute at the
But
beginning of a
the
meeting and
intentional,
help people land and
yeah,
arrive and ground themselves.
it's the intentionality piece, right? It really is something
Mm,
really, it's our basic thing we do. And it's such an easy tool, but I think we have to bear in mind that some systems, it really isn't healthy for us to show more of ourselves.
mm,
And when we take that breath, we might end up feeling more vulnerable. So that's why you do it in the comfort of your car, in your own home, in the loo, wherever that you are feeling safe to do so. And I think that's where it really is really simple. And when I say car, I really mean not driving. I do mean parked in your car. I always have to say that. And it's not big. It's not Wim Hof. It's like, it's really simple. It's so simple. And as anybody that's listening to this podcast now, I invite you just to take a very gentle inhale And a
Make it
long
immediate.
exhale, a gentle inhale, and a long exhale. And if you need to help a count, it's an in for 3 and an out for 6. And within that, the whole body, everything settles. The outcome of your day will change, and the pace softens. We soften. Um, or if we need strength, it can give us strength. It's not always about softening. So, yeah, I think if more companies had that as a practice and more leaders had a practice, we would have very, very different rates of health. And I include mental health in that.
Yeah.
It's not an elixir, it's not a cure-all, but it is a starting point, because from there, I know if I can do some mini bit of breath work with the team before we constellate and before we do workshop, the outcomes are day and night compared to not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
amazing.
So now we're all grounded and even more present to your beautiful voice. Tell us about your hot topic and why do you think it should matter to leaders today?
And it's about remembering what I said to you, Jennifer. What did I say my hot topic was?
Endings
Menopause
to endings.
tending to endings. Thanks. That's where the menopause hits well. So this idea of attending to your ending is so huge, and
So
it's
huge.
so
In
huge
organisations,
in organizations. Yeah,
such a neglected thing.
totally. When somebody starts new in a position, they are so feeling so resourced, so excited, um, and very quickly realizing that they don't feel successful. They don't feel they have the tools to be successful. They feel that they're not understood. And so much of it is nothing got to do with them, and it's got to do with what happened, the previous person that has left, who wasn't recognized in their departure, who wasn't allowed to, not have a last word. It's not about that, but recoup the parts of themselves that are left. So we call those like positions, those parachute positions where, they don't last very long and they get thrown out. And anybody listen to this might recognize that in themselves, but also might also know of somebody who started in a company and it's like it was all there for them and then it wasn't. And this is a real systemic thing. So attending to your own endings. So if you were that person that left a really difficult position. This is the work that we do with individuals and also teams to acknowledge what has happened, the emotions that were there at the end. Attend to that. So it's that whole thing of you can say hello once you've said goodbye. And so many people don't do it because they don't know it is a process that you can do. But when that work just settles the whole system. So not only do you feel more resourced for what comes, the system will also settle that you were acknowledged. I love watching retirement videos. I watched a police chief in some courts in Ireland was retiring this week, and the presentation they made to him, and it's for him, but it's also for everybody in that room that
Mm,
knows that if I leave tomorrow morning, my time here mattered, and that I contributed. Um, I love when I see this happen because it's for the health and welfare of everyone. So if you have somebody very senior in your organization due to retire, please organize something to help their welfare and health after they retire, but also know that everybody in the system is going to feel good as well because they know that everyone matters. I see it when it's not done correctly, where you've got a very, very senior person like a CEO or COO, CFO that have been dismissed for whatever reason. The whole system is really unsettled because they think if that senior person is able to be just dismissed, very quickly, that means I could be next. So everyone's on edge. I see the grief in the systems of big redundancies. Tech industry, January 2022 was a massive thing that the grief is still in the system, the volatility that anybody can be next, that you're not your number now. So loyalty is gone, culture is gone, even if the programs are there to try and reinstate it, because those endings haven't been attended to. So the loyalty is left in people that, oh, my manager, he was just let go and he brought me in here. He taught me what I know and now he's gone, so I really don't give a shit about my job.
mm,
So the hurt in the system runs so deep and it can impact people's career for the rest of their life. It can impact their retirement, can impact health. We hear of people who often get really sick after they retire because of something that has happened in their career that hasn't been attended to. So it's the work I now do with a lot of individuals. I do an awful lot of grief work, not just in relation to corporate endings, but also in relation to any grief that hasn't been attended to can linger in the body and really, really impact our welfare. And it's why it's one of my most special programs that I run for people. And it's rare I get to do it with a team, but when I get to do it with the leaders that are brave enough to step into the arena, like the stories and the output of what happens in the team, because they've become more resourced in their ending and they've taken back the parts of themselves that were left in the ending. So often we leave an organization and we forget to take our skills and our experience. We leave it
Mm.
technically in the building. So I do a meditation where they scoop back literally those parts that they've left, and leave the things that weren't true about them in the building. Like, things that were said that was more about the system than it was for them. So all that hurt. But it's really acknowledging that it all happened. So much time, I know we've a real Irish saying, ah, but sure, I'm grand, like, I'm fine. But you're not. You're carrying this. Some of it is a systemic weight that never belonged to you. Some of it was absolutely there before you ever started. So it's about bringing it back to really honoring what has happened, attending to it to be able to say hello to what's coming next. So it's my favorite work. I love it. I love seeing people's lives transform after it, and how, they didn't even know it was a thing. They didn't know that they could name it as grief or entanglements or things that, had started long before they ever sat in the chair of their position. So yeah, it's incredible. So that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's my hot take. Thanks for
It
reminding me.
is, and it's a huge topic. I just want to pick up a few things in what you've just said. So I was thinking about like through the leadership lens, and I was thinking like what we're not saying here is that endings shouldn't happen. What we're saying is they happen. They have to happen.
All the
They're
time.
going to happen. But the way that you care for them is the difference that makes the difference. So do what you've always done and get what you've always got. And that what I really liked, and I kind of wanted to add an extra thing in, was that to the person that's exiting, or because sometimes it can be a team, can't it? A team being disbanded, reorg happening. So an individual or a team that for whatever is exiting, there's a really important thing to honour in that person came and they did their best for that role, or that team existed and they did their best with that team. Now it is no more. So honouring that for everybody involved. And I love that you mentioned like how that impacts those that stay as well and those that are left behind, and honouring that. And I also wanted to add in the complexity when someone's left and it hasn't been acknowledged fully, or respectfully, the person who comes next in to do that role, like the trickiness, I think you alluded to it, and and I think I've been in this position before in a corporate role where I followed somebody who'd had a tricky exit, and it was like, oh, all the ingredients were there for me to do well in this role, but it was like something in the system. And when we say system, it's like the culture that lurks in an organization, that like unsaid stuff that everyone kind of feels and notices, but maybe doesn't quite
Exactly.
know what it is. It was like something was just like treacly and tricky, and it made the role really hard. But everyone was like, "Well, this is
Nobody talks
strange."
about it, but
Nobody talks about it, but I don't think we would have had the language or awareness to
no.
go, hang on a minute, what happened with the last person that was in this role? Is there something that we can do, just a little ceremony to honour and acknowledge that? Because it then just allows the system to settle, doesn't it? And it is a
Yeah.
strange, energetic thing. It's like, oh, everyone sort of starts to go, oh, that's weird, I feel a bit lighter or freer, or that
Yeah,
kind of murky energy's disappeared,
exactly.
whatever
But
that was.
it's all the hidden dynamics, right? And
Yeah.
um but you know it in your body, and I'm doing a really good job here and I don't feel successful. So that's a perfect point of like, let's look what happened before you were there. And even it could be 2 3 roles before you as well. It mightn't even been the very last person. So, and the information mightn't even be in the system, everyone's gone, but the energy might be revealed through a mapping exercise. Yeah, here, it's all of that, like everything you said, Jennifer, and more, right? We cognitively only know some of this stuff. It's when we're with the people, they're really, really smart and they can sense and feel into those unwritten rules of belonging. And
Yeah.
that's where there's so much information.
I think as well that there's something here for leaders to take away from this about not needing to have things nicely stitched up with a pretty bow either. Like I'm thinking about when we've done some of our systemic training together, and some of the tricky endings I've had in my life, whether it's been a friendship that's ended that was left unresolved for me and not left in as a harmonious a place I would have liked it to have been, or an organization where I was doing some consulting work for them and I had a really tricky ending, like it was almost like a mind-blowingly unbelievably shocking ending, but with no opportunity to resolve. That this constellation work allows you to just acknowledge the truth of what is without having to go and fix it or heal it. Or I keep doing this, like I'm tying it with a neat little
Yeah,
bow,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
present, like
yeah. That's perfect. Now, ta-da! Yeah, exactly.
and just that like this work isn't about that. It's not about fixing anything. It's just about acknowledging it, so that it doesn't have. I'm trying to think of the metaphor. It's like the elephant in the room. You know, everyone knows the elephant in the room and they all feel it and everyone can sort of sense it. But until somebody speaks of it, it creates a distraction of people's energy, even though nobody wants to speak to it. And
Exactly
then
that.
when someone speaks to it, it's like the elephant disappears, doesn't it? Because it's like, well, it has no power now because it's been outed.
That's exactly it. It is the elephant in the room. I think that would be a brilliant podcast name. Uh, whoever's here to take, you have that book called The Big Magic behind you as well. It's
I
that, isn't it?
do.
It's like, well, there is a name of a podcast if anybody wants to take it. Because that is our work, really. It's naming the elephant
Yeah,
often. And it's not to fix it or solve it. We're not big enough. We know our place, but it's to really know that what you're feeling is legitimate, and it's bigger than you as well. And to get some support as a leader, everything will feel lighter. You'll be able to step into new forms of success that you can't even define right now. And that's the game changer that you and I have seen for ourselves, Jennifer, in our lives, but also in our clients and the teams that we work with. And sometimes it's really hard to put a return on that investment figure behind a sense. But I know from the teams that I've done some really powerful systemic constellations with, they've gone on to be the most successful teams that I know. They've won awards, not just internally, externally. And if they would ever, pause and think, oh my God, yeah, that one day was such a game changer and what happened next, because they got to say the things that had been unsaid. And sometimes it's not even about what's going on in the team, but it's going on in the ecosystem around them where they feel really unsteady and under resourced. And yeah, it's a game changer, especially with the endings piece. Yeah, for sure.
absolutely. So if you were to, I'm going to put you on the spot now. If you were to come up with one tip that you could give to leaders on this topic, what would your one tip be?
To be curious about what isn't being said, about perhaps, even if it's not in your team, another departure in the company, could even be the board, because the ripple impact on your teams is there, even if it's blind to you. So, yeah, watching for what's not being said is actually really, really loud. And no feedback survey might reveal some of this stuff. So, trusting their gut and heart more than their head on it. And wherever there is a sense of, yeah, I actually can't name it, but it's there. That's where a systemic coach can really help
Mm,
unravel and feel lighter and watch your team and you being
love it.
super, super successful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. Like just that concept of as a leader paying more attention to stepping back out and notice. It's the word noticing was the word that was in my mind when I was listening to you. Then I was like, just learning to notice, to turn up your observation skills, to step back out, look at a broader field, feel into it, notice where your intuition is driving. I think that's such a superpower for leaders going forward, not just in terms of paying attention to what's in your system, but also the kind of like future that we're facing and how there isn't a rule book and we're having to really sense, decide, choose, change, adapt, sense, decide, choose, change, adapt. There's so much of that. And I think without the sensing field, you can miss really important data and information that
AI is not going to pick this up.
no,
It's
it's
about
not.
spending time noticing who's talking to who's got their back to who. Like the body will tell you what's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
that nobody will say because they'll say, "Oh no, it's fine, it's grand, it's good. Yeah, no, we're all
Yes.
good. Yeah, I get on
Yes.
great with John." And the reality is, it's not there. And again, it's not for you to solve. It really is naming and allowing the field to do its own work then. But yeah, super. Yeah.
Brilliant. I absolutely love that. And I think this is going to be quite a new topic for some people listening to the podcast, particularly leaders who aren't swimming in our seas. We swim in this stuff on a daily basis, don't we? And we've obviously had lots of experience both for ourselves, but also seeing it with clients in our work and in our training. And we've got the data, I guess, to say this stuff really does work. It really, really does work. It really makes a difference. So for anybody that's like, I want that chocolatey voice in my life, and the magic of Norma O'Kelly, how can they get hold of you?
Well, being 22 years in marketing, like Norma Systemic Coach will find me on Google, hopefully on ChatGPT as well. But I have a podcast called Beyond the Norm, and it's on Spotify and Apple, and on web. And I am fairly prolific on LinkedIn most days, and it's really storytelling is kind of a huge part of my piece as well as Instagram.
I was
And I
just going to
do
say,
I do unique content on all different platforms. Being the marketeer, I actually really enjoy the content creation
yeah, and you're so good at
side
it.
of it. Thank you,
So
thank
good
you.
at it. Oh well,
Like,
Norma, thank you so much. Like I've really loved connecting again over systemic constellation work. Really loved speaking to you. I absolutely know this will make a difference for those leaders that are brave enough to, raise an eyebrow enough to get curious about this stuff. Because I think in 10 to 20 years, every leader will be like, oh yeah, systemic stuff. But at the moment, it's quite edgy. So I really do hope more people embrace this way of working. And thank you for your time,
thank
the
you.
gifts of you, and this conversation. It's a great way to start my day.
Honestly, Jennifer, so deeply appreciated. So thank you so much for having me, and
Oh,
best of
thank
luck
you.
for Frankly, because I love your brand. I love what you do, and let's keep going on our rebel path for now. And the right people are finding us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Up the revolution. Have a great day.
Thanks, Minnie and Jennifer.